I was one of the biggest CONY skeptics ever until some key things happened. And we're going to cover that. But for now, I mean, CONY, it's down 30.5% over the past year. The overall chart is not bad whatsoever. The distributions have been insane, and it really did shock me. So today we're doing an updated version of our CONY $10,000 invested video where I'm going to simulate investing $10,000 in CONY over a long time span. And we're going to see exactly how much money you could make if it keeps up with the consistent NAV as well as if it keeps up with the dividend yield and the distribution history. So a lot of assumptions, but it's really fun to see and kind of tell what this thing can do. And it's all based off of the past, the trading history that we've seen from CONY. So I didn't like CONY, like I said. I thought it was going to lose people money, and then I had it in a couple accounts, and it did really, really well. It was one of the stars in my high yield account, and so we're back. We're doing an updated video, and I really want to see what this thing can do in 2025. So if you like the YieldMax ETFs, if you like dividends and ETFs in general, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next videos and the next updates on our YieldMax account. I really appreciate you guys. The community is growing with a bunch of investors that are like-minded and just want to see what's going to make us the most money. And I love sharing knowledge with you guys. So with all that being said, let's roll the intro. CONY is a really interesting fund to me because of the underlying stock, Coinbase. Coinbase is extremely, extremely interesting in the sense that this was the first, it might still be, the only publicly traded crypto brokerage. I mean, there's like Hood that trades crypto, but Coinbase is just crypto. And so at least that's what I know. I don't think you can invest in just normal stock. I have Coinbase, so I should know this, but I don't. The distribution rate, 80%, which is insane. Well, 79.3, absolutely crazy. And if you guys are new to CONY, I don't know where you've been, but you have been missing out on some pretty insane returns with the risk. There's been a lot of risk. We've seen some NAV erosion. And so with crypto at all-time highs and nearly surpassing all-time highs, I'm curious what you guys think Coinbase stock is going to do. So let's give a little background into CONY. You guys know, if you're familiar with the YieldMax ETFs, they basically want a return of income, I think is how they put it. It's an income strategy. It seeks to generate monthly income by writing and selling covered or call options. Sorry, not covered call, just call options on Coinbase stock. Now, it wants to harvest compelling yields and retain a capped participation in the price gains of coin. So here's the thing. If you think that coin is going to triple over the next year, CONY is probably not the stock for you. If you think that coin is going to trade sideways or go up slowly and steadily, CONY might be the one for you, especially if you like distributions, if you like the dividends that it pays out, which it pays out 13 times every single year. They pay out 4 times once every 4 weeks, I should say. And so CONY's investment objective is to seek current income, and then also to have slight exposure to the share price of the common stock, Coinbase Global. Now, there's a lot that goes into these funds, and there's some things you want to note. Net assets, $1.14 billion. This is a very large ETF. There are a ton of YieldMax funds that are not over the $1 billion mark, and that's because people have a lot of faith in Coinbase and thus in CONY. The gross expense ratio is 0.99%, which is very, very high. I'm not going to lie to you. They used to be like 0.06, but these funds are actively managed. It's a lot of work, not only writing the covered calls, managing the capital, understanding, keeping track of how much money you can pay out without affecting NAV erosion. So I'm sure it's stressful, and so thus I'm okay with paying the 1% on that. But I don't love it. I wish it was less. Now, you can always go on here and track it yourself. You can check in. On 1 month, CONY is down. We're down 14.5%. On 3 months, we're still up 30%. 6 months, 7%. And year to date, 25%. So we've been moving all over. Actually, 25. I don't even know what, this is just the NAV, market percentage-wise. So total, since inception, it's up 122%, which is insane. Which is absolutely insane. But I believe it. These funds took the world by storm. We can see the distribution calendar here when it was paying out, what it was paying out. But I prefer to pull that up on Seeking Alpha. It has a little bit better view, in my opinion. So we're going to do that. Let's jump in and see how many dividends have been paid out by CONY. And is this thing legit? So looking at CONY's dividend history, this is really key. I like looking at all the distribution histories for every fund that I buy. I think it's really, really important. Now, there's something interesting that I want to know from you guys. But first, we can see CONY's at a low price. It's at $13.80, and the most recent distribution was low. It was the lowest that we've actually ever seen, which is not good. I'm not happy about that. But I counted these up. We had 12 payments in 2024 and 3 prior and 1 in 2025, meaning we are at 16 distributions. Now, when I ran my math, I'm going to do it based off a 12 dividends per year payout. I know people say I Googled it and it says that it pays monthly. People say it pays every 4 weeks. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, but I'm tracking it based off this distribution history that it paid out 12 times in 2024. So we're going to do our math, and I already started it because we paid out $18.44 from CONY so far. I divided that by 16 because we are going to get our true dividend history, not just based off the most recent distribution, which was still 80%. It's still insane. But looking at this, we can see it was $1.15 per distribution, which is good. That's an average. We are then going to take this and we're going to multiply it by 12. And that's going to give us a payout of $13.83, which means that for 1 year, supposedly for 12 payouts, you get $13.83. Now, the interesting thing is we are currently at a price of $13.80. So we're going to divide this by $13.80. And then we're going to multiply it by 100. I lost it. And this is going to give us a yield of 100.22%, which is insane. That is actually insane. I know Misty, I'm going to put our most recent $100 invested into MSTR or $100 from dividends in MSTR at the end of this video because that one's been absolutely crazy as well. I had a yield of about 150%, which is just wild. But CONY is not doing bad by any means. At 100% distribution, this is what I'm going to use for the calculator. But first, let's take a look at the DRIP calculator for CONY and see the full picture of how this fund has been doing. You've heard me say it over and over again, dividendchannel.com, their DRIP calculator, it is phenomenal. Now we're going to throw in CONY and we're going to calculate our return. So here's the interesting part. I am not going to run the calculation. I've debated it. Sometimes I do it both ways. I'm not going to run it based off just the yield. We're going to run it based off of the average annual total return. This shows the NAV erosion side of things. This shows a lot more, and it seems like more realistic to me. I'm not going to factor in the NAV erosion specifically because in this percentage, it's already factored in. And this is with DRIP on, of course. So we can see an insane return, a total return of 152%. So initially, if you had invested $10,000 in August 15 of 2023, currently today, it would be worth $25,000. So your 10K becomes $25,000. A phenomenal return. Like I said, a 90% return with DRIP on. With DRIP not on, still a solid return. You're still getting a total return of 100%, but an average return less of 62%. So the power of DRIP and the power of compounding really stands out with these funds because when they pay out these massive distributions, even if we do see some NAV erosion, we see the NAV drop a little bit as it's paying out these crazy dividends. If it can at least hold that NAV, I don't know, whether through more people buying in or just the fund being able to get more profitable based off the calls that they're writing, based off more volatility in the market. I'm not an options expert by any means, but if they're able to do that, you recoup, you buy dividends at a low, and then if it trails back up in price, boom, you get a ton more. And with DRIP on, I mean, DRIP just seems to be the way to go with these. I know people have different opinions. Let me know in the comments if you like DRIP, if you don't like DRIP. Just with the YieldMax ETFs, I DRIP everything outside of the YieldMax and Roundhill funds. I DRIP all my safe investments. But still, I think it's really, really interesting how some like it, some don't like it. But I'm going to use this number. We're going to go forward in our $10,000 invested with 90% average annual total return, even though I don't know if it will be able to keep that up. That's just based off of its trading since 2023. So a lot of factors unknown here, but I'm really blown away by the return of CONY. It has done so well. I really can't believe how well it's done. And again, I wasn't a hater, but I was like, oh, there's no way that's real, right? I kind of grew up with the dividend idea of 5 to 6% is unbeatable. And it's just not anymore. They're able to do better. And options have always been a way to do better. I've known that. It's just not my specialty. So it's really cool seeing someone optimize on options in a way that every public trader can utilize. So I'm very happy with it. Like I said, I don't have it in my Roth account. I'll admit it. I don't own it. I own it mostly for challenges because it just makes me so nervous and it's just crazy. But I'm also not a fan of the dropping in price. I'm not a fan of NAV erosion. No matter what, even if the return is 50% and the NAV erosion's only 20%, I know it might be dumb to give up on a 30% return, but it's just hard for me to see the price fall in the account. So those are my thoughts. Let's pull this in. We'll pull all this data into our drip calculator, and we'll see how much money you can make 5, 10, 15, 20, even 30 years down the line with CONY. I already know, based off the last video, this is going to be insane. And, I'm becoming more and more of a CONY fan. Same thing with MSTY. It's just crazy what the returns are. So looking into this, let's see. The way I have it set up, we have our 725 shares. I rounded up ever so slightly. And what this gets us, after $10,000 invested for 1 year, it gets us $23,900, a little under, which is insane. And so from that point on, your annual dividend income becomes $33,000, and your total dividend payments over that first year were $9,000. It is just wild. So the difference between this, 9,000 plus 10,000 gets you 19, but because we have drip on, it's paying out. So every month that it pays out, a fraction of 90%, a 12th of 90%, the drip is on. So it just continues to compound. It continues to grow. And so at the end, we're getting an absolutely insane return because of the power of that monthly drip. Now, again, this is all very assumptive. I don't know how it's going to perform. We factored in the NAV erosion from the past, but I can't factor it in for the future because I don't know. I don't know what it's going to do. I don't know what Coinbase is going to do. Is Bitcoin going to go to, 500,000? I don't know. And I'm okay not knowing, but I'm not going to try and pretend like I know because some people do that and I don't appreciate it. So let's say 5 years, you invest $10,000 into CONY, it returns 90% consistently with NAV erosion factored in, and you have 5 years invested. So after that time, your balance of $10K is now worth $774,000. And that's why people don't believe in these funds, and me included, because that's an insane thing to look at. Like, you're turning $10K into $700,000 over a span of 5 years. Like, the best traders in the world can't do that. And so the interesting part, your total dividend payments over the 5 years ends up being, I had to double check, it ends up being $500,000 over the 5 year period. Now your annual dividend income is $1,007,000 in annual dividend income. Like, that's just crazy off a near $800,000 investment. And it only gets crazier from here. It only gets crazier. Trust me. Trust me on that. Now, we can see after 10 years invested, your ending balance is $60 million. And I don't even see how this is plausible. I really don't. I don't know if CONY can keep this up. I'm not saying it will or that it won't. We're also not factoring in taxes because I invest primarily in a Roth. But these numbers they're just insane. After 10 years of consistent 90% returns, the math adds up. It's just, can it keep up the 90% return? You have $60 million. And I don't know. I'm not a hater, I promise, but this just 15 years, $4.6 trillion from your $10,000 investment. We'll just keep moving through these because it's going to get more and more unrealistic. The thing too is, I want you guys to know, no YieldMax fund has been around for more than a couple years at most. So saying that we'll know 20 years out, I'm not saying that I'm going to know. Please don't think that. I get comments every time saying, you're dumb, you don't know where it's going to be in 20 years. And every time I respond, I am dumb, but I promise I know this. I didn't say that it was. I'm not saying it's going to be this in 20 years. Please remember that. I'm just saying this is based off the what if, based off the past, off the distributions, off of the total return. So 20 years. 20 years, 725 shares at an average cost of $13.8 per share. Oh my gosh. $358 trillion. So we're going to go to 30 years, and I love to do this calculation where I say, let's say you're 25, you invest 10K into CONY, and it trails the same price for 30 years, but the distribution total ends up being about 90%. You're netting 90% annually, which is crazy. That is difficult to do, nearly impossible. We've never really seen a fund do that I know of. If you know of one, let me know down in the comments because I'll be buying it. But after 30 years, you're going to retire at 55 with your Roth IRA. You're still going to pay taxes at 55, unfortunately. Oh my gosh. Millions, billions, trillions. Only $2.15 quintillion, which is, in 30 years, that might be like $1 million today. Who knows how high inflation is going to go and what it's going to do to our dollar. But all in all, It is crazy. So listen to me. Before you start commenting and saying, you're so dumb, this will never happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen. This is based off of the return. I'm not saying CONY is going to have this phenomenal return for 30 years straight. I don't know when it's going to end. I don't know if it's going to end. I'm not predicting anything. All I'm showing you is this is how much money CONY has been making. People will hate the YieldMax funds. I didn't like them at first either. Remember that. I was on your side if you do hate them. I was on your side at one point. But the return speaks for itself. The drip calculator, I didn't make it up. That's just, it's the way it's been going. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It really is a fun breakdown. Again, don't come for me if you don't become a quintillionaire in 30 years. I'm so sorry. Hopefully you're still subscribed at that point. But either way, I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you in the next video.